Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome, glad to have you here. Oh look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee?
I don't drink coffee.
You sure? It's cultist coffee.
What makes it cultist coffee?
I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it.
Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Good morning. Welcome to the morning grind. Oh, I just noticed I didn't turn on my Christmas decorations. Hey, I should do that. We should be Christmassy while we have the opportunity. Christmas lights on. Christmas lights on. Christmas tree on. There, much better. Good morning, everyone. Got to be Christmassy while we can. Theo is here. Welcome. Wave. Retro Nerd Girl. Good morning, Retro Nerd Girl. Everybody check out her channel as well. Bill is here. Bill, good morning. Well, you asked for it all, that you thought that it would be a great idea to follow up yesterday's discussion of White Hack with the RPG The Black Hack. Now, I'm not actually sure if these things are actually related as far as game system. I mean, I know they're both based on like OSR stuff. I know that. But I mean, as far as their development, or if just their names happen to be similar. But I hear a lot about Black Hack and White Hack from everybody. So looked at White Hack and was enjoying it. There's more to look at with White Hack. There is more to look at with all of these RPGs that we're looking at. we're going to have to move on to different topics and then go back and take a look at all these different books because there is so much to say about so many of them. So we will do that, but we will take a look at Black Hack today and see what it is all about. So that's what we're doing. All right, let's breathe and then let's also sip. So breathe with me. Deep inhale, complete exhale, and make you feel better. There we go. Nice, nice. Hey, don't forget that tonight is the last episode of the Cultists Season 2. This is our season finale tonight. So we're going to be live at 7:30 on this channel watching the Cultists Season 2 finale. Immediately after that, we'll watch the deleted scenes. And then immediately after that, there's the bloopers that we'll watch. So we'll go to several different videos with those. And then we'll have the live after party right after the bloopers end. And I have the Call of Cthulhu Investigator's Handbook, Keeper's Handbook, and also the screen here that are being given away on the live stream after party. So I thought that was an appropriate way to end up the Cultists. So I'll be giving those away. And I hope to see everybody. It's going to be a great time. Then we'll have to come up with a new show next week. All right, let me go to the morning messages. I got to update the morning messages, but I didn't see much point in it because I'm going to have to update them after today because the Cultists will be over. So let's just go to the morning messages. Friday night at 7:30 p.m. Central Time, new episodes of The Cultists Season 2 are premiering. It's our comedy web show about modern-day Lovecraftian cultists just trying to worship Cthulhu in a world full of people who don't understand.
Fish are friends, not food.
I'm a little worried about Rob.
Yes, it's happening.
Ever since we tried to summon Cthulhu, he hasn't been the same.
I'm growing gills. Gills! My transformation into a deep one has finally begun.
Rob, we don't see any gills.
It's these kids getting involved with all this stuff causes them to go crazy.
There's a live after party after every show with me, Heath. I'm the creator, co-writer, and producer of the show. I also play Steve, and other members of the cast and crew. Catch those live or on replay. If you need to catch up on the Cultist show, both Season 1 and Season 2 are on my YouTube channel. Just go to the playlist. Each episode is about 5 to 7 minutes long. We've also developed a social deduction and miniature game based on the Cultists that we want to launch on GameFound. Check this out. Ready for a Cthulhu Cultist party game of spellcasting and betrayal? Welcome to Ritual.
This is just our gaming group.
Indeed, but your gaming group is all you need to delve into the madness-inducing rituals necessary to summon Cthulhu. Click the link below to visit the GameFound page, follow the project, and learn more.
You've not been further compromised by the Yellow King, have you?
Check out the GameFound page for more about the game and for a brief rundown on how to play. When you follow the game on GameFound, you can get updates about the game's development before the project goes live. And you'll get a free Rob, High Priest of Dagon miniature in battle pose if you decide to back the game when the campaign goes live. There is even an opportunity to get an advanced copy of the rules and participate in the playtest for rules review. We'd like everyone who's a fan of the Cultists to be involved. You can get all of the links you need in the chat or in the description below. The Morning Grind is brought to you by Ravenkeep. That's the company that I set up to publish the things that we are making here on the show. Check out ravenkeep.net. You'll find merchandise from the Cultists, such as mugs and coffee, as well as board games, the Goodnight Sword ebook, and the Terra Tiles pre-order. Terra Tiles are the terrain system that my brother and I developed that I'm currently re-releasing. Terra Tiles are the easiest way to get great-looking terrain on your table. They are bright and colorful and ready to play right out of the box. There's nothing to print, paint, or assemble, and Terra Tiles are large, thick, and durable, being 9 inches from point to point. That's large enough to make setting them up quick and easy, while also being the perfect size to create really varied and organic-looking terrain setups for your table. This reprint is being produced in very limited numbers, so if you want one, you need to put in a pre-order so a box will get your name put on it. All right, so we're about to have some new samples done for Terra Tiles. I want to make sure that we've got at least some limited samples of all of the new style Terra Tiles. And I was talking to the manufacturer about that yesterday. I've still got to send them some additional information today, but that is also happening. And so manufacturing is moving along right there as well. And I was also writing up stuff to send to the action figure manufacturer. So good morning, Ryan. Good morning. It is so good to see you. So let's pull up Black Hack and see what's going on. This is going to be a fresh dive for me as far as the Black Hack RPG goes, because I don't know anything about it. This was recommended to me by the community here. Thank you. So we will see. I've gotten so excited over the past few days, especially because I think it's just about ready for me to turn around and start doing the writing again and getting stuff done. There's so much that I've got to create that has to do with writing, and I feel like I have been so stymied by that and have been behind in that because I write things and it's the wrong thing and all of that, and then it doesn't come out and all of that. I think I am very, very close to having the story all done for the first Tales of Ravavania book or screenplay, whatever it's going to be. I got a meeting on that this afternoon. I'm chomping at the bit to be writing the RPG. I got the logo. I got some examples or some concepts of the potential logo for Faded Edge, the RPG we're going to be putting together here on the stream. So I'll have that, and we're going to start writing here. I really think we're about to start taking off creatively here. Okay, so this is the Black Hack RPG. And we're going to kind of take our standard way to figure out how to play. We're going to see if we can find some type of blurb that tells us exactly what it's supposed to be doing, which it might have right here. So this is by David Black. Okay. And then take a look at its character sheets if we can find it, and then figure out what its core mechanics are. So this is a comprehensive, rules-light, old-school fantasy role-playing game developed by David Black, featuring a DIY homebrew of an original era fantasy game and modern game design theory. All right. So let's, actually, I think I saw that on the very back. Oh, no, I was looking for a back cover. Appendix. Surely there is a character sheet, unless it's in a different file. Let me make sure it's not in a different file. Nope, GM screen. So this came with this order. I ordered this off of DriveThruRPG. It came with a GM screen. It came with a prayer book, which looks like divine prayers, and then arcane spells. So if it's in here, I suppose our character sheet would be in here. I wonder if we just go to creating a character, if we can find it. Page 16. We need a sample character. Okay, well, okay, so here's one. So it looks like we might be using different character sheets for different types of players. Okay, that's good. Let's take a look at Warrior right here. This does not look like a complicated character sheet. Oh, good morning, VGD. Good morning, good morning. Good to see you. The Warrior. So name, strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. So we're using the standard Dungeons & Dragons attributes, which makes sense being this is kind of an old school revision. I think on the whole, they're overused, but it makes sense in this context to use them. So name, statistics, HD, maybe hit dice, HP, probably hit points, armor, armor value. Put usage dice and armor dice here. Okay. Maybe that actually means actually physically putting dice in that space. And then inventory slots and then XP. Well, that's very simple. So that's what we're looking at. Lots of art on the character sheet. All right. So let's see what goes on here. Playing Black Hack, rules for everyone. Rules for the players, creating a character. Well, see, I do like, so we might be able to just move right through this book, because they did put creating a character toward the end, which I said, that seems to be a good idea, because I want to know how to play right up front. So but we do look at our table of contents. So playing the Black Hack, rules for everyone, movement and distance. Has anyone played this? I know it's been recommended. I think Inner Light has recommended this one. And maybe the Nose Plays as well. So have you actually played this one? Is anybody in here who's actually played this one? Rules for everyone, movement and distance, attacking, defending, and damage, levels and experience, rules for the players, magic and spells, creating a character, rules for the GM, random encounters, equipment and economy, hirelings and retainers, panic and light, disease, narcotics, and poisons, tools, quick reference, NPCs, tricks, traps, and secret doors, monsters, magic items and treasures. Very comprehensive. Sample dungeon and sample dungeon. Okay. Well, then let's just go start from here then. So, playing the Black Hack. What is this game? The Black Hack is a tabletop role-playing game played with pencils, paper, and dice. The Black Hack looks back at the dungeon-delving games of the 1970s, rebooting those experiences with modern rules for another generation of gamers. The game has been designed to use a simple set of rules that are present in a plain conversational language. For ease of play, anything styled in bold italics is in the appendix on page 122 for quick reference during play. We're using polyhedral dice. Doesn't surprise me, being an old school kind of thing. What does the game master do? That's basic information on what is role-playing. Oh, an example of play. Okay, we like examples of play, so let's do this one. So example of play. GM says, I hope the cultists don't find you and eat your hearts, laughs the mad sorcerer maniacally as he waves goodbye. Warrior, oh, this is going to be so great. Thief, I sarcastically shout back, thanks. Wizard, quick, let's get out of here. Thief, okay, is the sewer cover nearby? So that's obviously a thing in the game. Yeah, and it's made of rusty iron bars. Thief, okay, I'll move to it, move being a thing, and as my action, I will check for traps. Theo says, what did you think of it? I've run the Cthulhu hack. I just saw Cthulhu hack as I was searching for this one this morning I just bought it on Drive-Thru RPG. So I saw Cthulhu hack. That also seems like one that we're going to have to look at. Warrior, assuming it's safe, I want to bend the bars so we can slip through. Wizard, and I want to cast light on my staff so we can see nearby. GM, okay, Thief, test your wisdom by rolling D20 under your wisdom score. So this does have a little bit more explanation of what is going on than White Hack did. We needed some additional context to actually kind of think through those examples. So, okay, so we're doing a test here. So D20 under wisdom score to check the portcullis for traps. Thief rolls, made it. GM, you're confident it's free of anything designed to do you harm. Warrior, still want to bend the bars? If so, test strength. Warrior rolls, piece of cake. GM, good stuff. Now, Wizard, you cast light on your staff. It glows. That's a level 1 spell that you've memorized, right? Spell memorization. Wizard, yep. Okay, well, test your intelligence and add 1 to your D20 roll because it's a level 1 spell. Okay, so test your intelligence because it's a level 1 spell. If you fail, you can't cast that spell from memory anymore. Oh, okay, interesting. So testing intelligence, adding 1 to the D20 rolls. I need to roll under, not on it, right? That's right. Damn, I failed. GM, unlucky. Beyond the bent iron bars is a long, dark sewer tunnel heading deep down. What do you want to do next? Warrior, explore down the tunnel? Thief says, agreed. I'll sneak ahead. Wizard says, and I'll protect the rear. GM, okay, Thief, you move down the sewer tunnel, still nearby to your friends. Please test your dexterity to see how quiet you are. Remembering you get advantage on tests when sneaking, roll 2 d20s and choose the result you like. Thief rolls. Despite rolling 2 dice, I've got a 17 and 19. What are the odds? So we are still trying to roll under here. So that would be high. GM, ouch. You're making so much noise being sneaky, a ghoul hiding in the darkness close to you leaps out and attacks. Thief, bugger. GM, initiative time. Initiative's a new thing. Everyone test their dexterity. Passing means you act before the ghoul. Failing means you go after. Thief, you test with disadvantage. Warrior, I go before. Wizard, I'm after. We'll have to see how initiative is played out here. And see what kind of system it uses. I'm for having good initiative systems, and I think the basic Dungeons & Dragons initiative system is kind of lousy. Theo says, The usage die mechanic is my favorite thing from these rules. Okay, well, I saw that sitting there on the character sheet, so we'll be sure to check that out. Warrior says, or Thief says, how long was it to roll up a character again? I go after Warrior. I want to run down the tunnel and hack at the ghoul with my broadsword. GM says, okay, Warrior, you move close to the ghoul. Test your strength to see if you hit it. You should add +1 to the roll as the ghoul's a powerful foe. Warrior rolls a 7, rolls again. So that's 8 hit points of damage. GM, good hit. Now it's the ghoul's turn. Thief, test your strength. Try to fight off the ghoul's paralyzing claws and bites. Remember to add a +1 to your roll. I do like the bolded and italic stuff here, calling out specifically what is something with a mechanical effect in this game. I do like that. Thief rolls. Ugh, 18. GM, oh dear, you feel a painful numbing sensation run through your body. Test your constitution. If you fail, the ghoul paralyzes you. Thief rolls. Oh no, 20. Thief is not rolling well. GM, Wizard, you see the thief fall rigid to the floor. What do you do? Wizard, I'll start backing away slowly. Thief, I'll get you in the next life you get. All right. Well, let's find out how it's actually played then. Turns and time. Let's skip over that a little bit. Okay, here is character actions and attribute tests. So this seems like some core information on how we actually play. Every action involving a character that might fail or make the situation worse for the character is resolved by testing one of their 6 attributes. In order for their character to succeed in an action, a player must roll below the attribute on a d20. And it does say below, not equal to or below. Rolling on or above indicates things went poorly or that the action did not go as planned. The GM will then narrate the outcome of the failed action, describing how the characters are affected. A GM never rolls dice to resolve NPC monster actions, or the GM never rolls dice to resolve NPC or monster actions or negative elements of the environment, such as traps. If they involve a character, the player will roll. Okay, so this is the player rolls all the dice. Otherwise, the GM will make a swift and fair judgment call that moves the story forward and abides by the logic of the unfolding fiction, taking note if need be. So we have advantage and disadvantage mechanics. Now, I've thought about that actually from game design perspectives, that you could do players roll all of the dice. And I thought, well, maybe they should. Maybe that's a good way to go. The downside that I heard to that was people saying, well, hey, wait a minute. I, as the game master, am playing this game too, playing in the broad sense. I'm playing this game too. I like to roll dice. Why don't I get to roll dice as the game master? And I thought, oh, well, that's kind of reasonable too. The players like to roll dice, so that would be a reason to put more dice rolling on the players. But hey, the GM might have fun rolling dice too. So we have advantage and disadvantage in this. A GM may decide that an action or outcome isn't straightforward. Perhaps something is more or less likely to happen, perhaps having a greater or lesser effect. This is called having an advantage or disadvantage. Advantage and disadvantage means when a roll is made, it should be made twice as follows. With advantage, the player chooses which result to use. Disadvantage means the GM chooses what result to use. So it's not exactly take the highest or take the lowest. It's player or GM's choice. Don't forget, this could apply to any die roll, such as damage, an item's usage, or a random encounter roll. So this is broader than just tests. That's interesting. And makes sense when you're talking about player's choice or GM's choice. If a situation requires the GM to make a roll in secret with advantage, then the GM should choose the result that is most favorable to the players. Okay. Makes sense, because they wouldn't actually be allowed to see the rolls. Every character, NPC, or monster has something called a hit die, HD, accompanied by a number. This number represents their level. For example, a level 6 ogre has 6 HD, and a character that has 3 HD would be level 3. HD also indicates how many dice to roll to determine the number of hit points or HP a creature begins the game with. NPC and monsters roll D8s for HP. Characters roll the dice given in their character class for HP. Hit points are tracking how much damage things cause through physical and spiritual wear and tear. Bad things happen when a creature runs out of hit points. When a GM or player first rolls to determine a character's starting hit points, that is the maximum they can ever have. No amount of healing spells or effects can take them beyond this amount. The only way for a creature to increase their max HP is to gain a level. When they do, a single hit die is rolled and the result is added to their maximum HP. So we are doing, it seems like, inflationary hit points here. Although we're also doing highly randomized kind of hit points here because of the linear nature of the hit dice here. Oh, I do want to read. So we saw close, nearby, far away, and distant. So Black Hack uses 4 range bands for measuring relative positions of characters, other creatures, and things in the world. From nearest to farthest, we are close, nearby, far away, and distant. These ranges are designed to support the narrative theater of the mind style of play. I like that. And that actually may be a little bit better than zones, although you could do it in zones as well. Like if you're within the same zone, you're nearby. If you are outside of another zone, you're far away. And if you're beyond another zone, you're more than 2 zones away, you're distant or something like that. And if it matters where you are relative to one another within a single zone, if you're actually physically interacting like in Melee, you have to be close by. You're going to have to get close. So these ranges are designed to support the narrative theater of the mind style of play where a map and miniatures aren't being used. Therefore, it's useful if everything in the world is tracked by its relative distance from various points of interest around it. For instance, in play, a GM might narrate a room to the players by saying, "You are close to the northern doorway, which is nearby the fountain. A torch on the southern wall is far away from you." I like that a lot. So it does say tokens are useful. Whilst a full range of miniatures isn't necessary to play Black Hack, tokens such as coins or chess pieces may be extremely useful for tracking relative positions, such as who is behind or in front of someone, or other complex situations like combat encounters. And I like that too. It does let you use some miniatures, but I would put them in zones. And the exact position, not counting squares, not necessary. But determining relative, in order to determine, relative distance and give everybody a quick look at the sort of relative situation on the table, I think is a good idea. Various interactions with the environment and the things in it will require characters to be certain distances from the target. For instance, to attack someone with a sword, a character would need to be close to them. To shoot them with a bow, a character should ideally be far away. These range bands scale up or down to any level, much like relative time. From adjacent rooms to towns and mountains, everything in the world can be defined by its relative distance to another point. During tense moments, it scales down significantly, close being less than 5 feet away, and nearby around 25 feet away. While the characters explore a location, they have minutes at their disposal. A nearby place could be the end of a path over 250 miles away. Oh, okay. Battle mat adjustments. Mini battle mat. Marching order, useful for tracking the order of characters in a corridor when traveling on roads. Okay, we would do that. Have the miniatures sitting there in a little marching order. It's an easy way to do it. Okay, so now we move into attacking. This game does, like, we're just going through it page by page here, and I like that this game does throw you into it. With all of this information on actually how to play. I think this is a good organizational structure here. Talk about characters later. So, when combat breaks out, everyone must be sorted in an order so they can react during a turn. Where is initiative? I guess we're not ready for initiative yet. Okay. As an action, a character might choose to deal damage to an opponent with an attack. Their player must succeed in an attribute test before they can roll their attack damage dice and subtract the result from the opponent's HP. Likewise, something will surely attempt to inflict damage in return and reduce a character's HP. To defend and avoid this damage, the character must succeed in an attribute test. So remember, we're putting the dice rolls back on the player. So defense, so this is active defense, but it's not both active attack and defense, right? which even though I like both active attack and active defense in general, I think that probably mathematically the thing to do is just to have one die rolled. That's the kind of decision that I always come to when I'm working on game design. Stray is here. Good morning. Because it seems like, I mean, you're doubling the number of dice to do active attack and active defense, and often your random numbers end up canceling each other out anyway. And so from the game design, I think just one die should be rolled. So this one is choosing to make it active defense. It's active defense on the part of the player. BGD says, I like grids and use them frequently, but the advantage of rule systems that are predicated on close, near, far zones is that they work with virtually any style of play. Near becomes within 30 feet, etc. Right. Yes. I think that's another great point. When I'm thinking about trying to design one, I do want it to be, easy to run, and especially easy to run over like a video call and things like that. But also be able to be useful in other systems. Some people may want to run other systems in a world, and that's completely fine. And so giving information that is easily transferable to somebody else's system is good. And like BGD is talking about here, close, near, far zones, they work with any style of play. If you want to transfer that. And I think that's actually what was going on over here. They gave a suggested, close, nearby, far away, distant conversion for squares. So that makes sense. And it works well, I think. Use what you want to use. There is time, to me, there is time for tactical square by square combat. I do like that. But I think that overall, my direction of gaming is going differently than that. But if we were just do a game of tactical combat, we can go square by square. So to defend and avoid this damage, the character must succeed an attribute test. The GM will determine what test they use for both. Attacking and defending, use the guidelines below. A melee attack. Strength attribute tests for attacking, and defending with swords and axes, etc. So we're using strength, not dexterity, for both attack and defense. Ranged attributes test for attacking. They test dexterity, and then also defending with bows and thrown weapons. Okay. Armor. Each piece of armor a character wears gives the character a pool of armor dice. Each armor die is a d6, and the number of d6s in the pool is equal to the armor value of the armor worn. For example, leather armor, AV2, gives a player 2 armor dice in their pool. If a character fails to defend or would take damage, that they can take one. If a character fails to defend or would take damage, they can take 1 armor die out of their pool, put it to one side, and declare it broken. In return, this allows all damage from that attack or effect to be ignored. All right. Armor dice that have been broken and put to one side cannot be used to ignore any further damage. After rest, any players with broken armor dice can try to fix them by rolling them. If they roll above the armor's AV, the die is no longer broken. I've never seen anything like this before. This is interesting. If they roll above the armor's AV, the die is no longer broken. If they roll on or below their armor's AV, the die is broken permanently until it's repaired. If all the armor die in a pool are permanently broken, the armor is destroyed. That actually reminds me of adventuring in Diablo. When your armor is taking damage, I've seen rules for armor damage and things like that, but it's often a little bit too much for me because it, you're already tracking potentially like hit points for, the character themselves, but then to also be tracking, like GURPS will have hit points for things. You can actually track hit points for things and their DR and things like that. And I think Hackmaster has rules for that as well. I'm trying to remember exactly what system they use. I know they basically got hit points for shields in Hackmaster. But it just seems like a lot. It's a lot of numbers tracking. So this is an interesting way to do it that is less numbers tracking. So that if you are deep on the dungeon delve, your armor and gear can get worn out. And you've got to get back to the blacksmith in order to repair it. This is interesting. How does that played? Who was saying that... Theo was saying that he's run Black Hack. Did that work well? Was this a cool part of this? Stray says, in Traveler, we use near far and we make it look like a sonar or Doppler scan for effect in a space battle. Oh, cool. We use near far. Yeah, that would be cool. I think it was Trey who recommended the pizza tray or pizza pan uh, game board, like for battles. And it was something that somebody created and crafted it. It was pretty neat. It's basically a big circle, which is why they called it the pizza board or something like that. And I was thinking you could even put that in a lazy Susan so it would go around, could spin around. And then you put, he had this circle in the center and they had a different color band. Now it looked like a dungeon floor, but it was different colors for like nearby and then I guess nearby and then out in missile range. So you could do that. And now I'm thinking I kind of like that idea that what's nearby, that goes in the center. And that's kind of like spotlighting what's in that battle. And then you could have another range that's near, and then you could have far, and you could even, if you wanted to track far in that direction versus far in that direction, dungeon pizza, that's what it is. You could even probably segment it like that sonar, like Stray is talking about. And so that would give you a little bit of extra information about relative distances. I might have to make one of those one day. I've got several different. This is why we got to do the crafting corner show, because I got stuff to make here, people, and probably you do too. We will see. So, if they roll on or below their armor's AV, the die is... Oh, he said that. Okay. Armor values do not stack. Only the armor with the highest AV counts. Shields and helmets add +1 each to the pool size. Sounds very Hero Quest. They do not modify the armor's AV in any way. So cloth or improvised armor is AV 1. Leather is 2. Chainmail is 3. Plate and mail is 4. Or just mail, as I would say it, would be 3. Plate and mail is 4. Shield and helmet get +1 die. And also, to me, those seem like perfectly reasonable armor categories. In one of the videos I did talking about realism in RPG combat, we kind of looked at a system for how to potentially to break down armor. And, of course, you can get extremely detailed. But this is actually pretty decent to me. Cloth, improvised, leather, mail, and then some type of plate or something like that. So I mean, that makes sense to me. It's detailed without being overly detailed. Stray says that would be cool. Yeah, I think it would be. Yeah, I want to play with one. It would be a fun way to display the miniatures. Damage and hit points. So if an NPC or monster takes damage from an attack, or a character fails to defend, they subtract damage from their total hit points. When a character or NPC is reduced to 0 hit points, they are unconscious and taken out of action. If a monster is reduced to 0 hit points, it is removed from the game. When a character wields a large or two-handed weapon, such as a polearm or heavy crossbow, 1d4 should be rolled and added to the attribute test to attack, defend, and any attack damage. So it says a large weapon. Okay, so we haven't seen weapons yet, have we? Oh, here we're about to. No. Well, we're probably about to. If you're wielding a large or two-handed weapon, 1d4 is added to the attribute test to attack. Oh, so that makes it actually more difficult to hit with it, because you're adding it to the attribute to attack and defend, but also to any damage rolls. Okay, but it deals more damage. Critical hits. When the result of d20 roll to an attack is a natural 1 or to defend is a natural 20, the damage dealt to the creature is doubled. So Hackmaster has not only the idea of a critical a hit, like a critical fumble, or a critical hit, but then also on your defense, because I believe it is also active defense, you can do, you can fumble your defense, or you can do critical defense, or like a perfect defense, they call it. They also have like near perfect defense. So if you're rolling both die, then yeah, the attack could be fantastic. So we're trying to roll low here. So 1 would be the critical number, or when it's time to defend, if you roll a natural 20, you've also screwed up in your defense, I guess, gone right into the enemy attack, and the damage to the creature is doubled. So that's another downside of rolling yours. So this is probably the video that I watched. Dungeon Pizza, or Ultimate Dungeon Terrain, UDT, was popularized by Professor Dungeon Master on the Dungeon Craft YouTube channel. The YouTube channel Knarb Makes has a great video crafting it from pizza pans. Oh, I didn't watch the actual pizza pan crafting. That's interesting. I had my list someplace of... I think I need to make one of these. I'm putting this on my craft list. It's kind of down the dungeon pizza. Because I like miniatures. I like this idea because I like miniatures, and I like the key pieces of terrain, but at the same time, that's not the direction that I'm going for as far as gaming goes, as far as tactical combat goes. So the dungeon pizza might be perfect. So, hindrances. Certain abilities, magic effects, and consequences of actions leave creatures hindered until a successful attribute test of the GM's choosing is made, sometimes needing an action to complete. And these are conditions, looks like conditions. I really like conditions on characters. So we've got some right here. Weakened, all attribute tests are rolled with disadvantage. Distracted, a character cannot perform any actions, but may still move normally. Stuck, a character cannot move, but they may take actions as normal. Paralyzed, a character cannot move or take any actions. Ongoing damage. Some attacks and spell damage spells deal damage to creatures after their initial effects. When a creature takes ongoing damage, it loses HP equal to its level at the start of every turn. An attribute test of the GM's choosing should be made by the player at the end of the turn to see if the ongoing damage continues. All right, let's talk about being out of action then. When a character is taken out of action, I'm excited about this one. I'm excited sitting here reading this one. This one seems fun. After a character is taken out of action, they can no longer take tests or move. When they receive aid or the danger they were in passes, the character must roll on the table to see what happens to them. If they survive, when they receive aid or the danger they were in passes, the character must roll on the table below to see what happens to them. Okay, so we're rolling a d6 right here. So that's why it says if we survive, number 6 means dead. The character is dead. So if they survive on rolls 1 to 5, they regain 1d4 hit points, counting up from 0, and are no longer out of action. If the character's side loses the fight and are unable to recover the body of the out-of-action character, they are lost forever and presumed dead. Out of action, KO'd, just knocked out. 2, fat head, disadvantage on all tests for the next half hour of play. Oh, that's interesting. Next half hour of play. So you put an actual game timer on the amount of game time going by. That's really interesting. I don't know that I've seen that before. 3, cracked bones, disadvantage on all strength, dex, and contests for the remainder of the session. 4, disfigured, charisma reduced by 1d4. Remainder of the session. So again, that's now session I've seen because things like fate will use sessions to recover from damage. So I've seen that. The next half an hour, that's an interesting one that I haven't using a certain amount of table time I haven't seen. Disfigured, charisma reduced by 1d4. Badly maimed, either strength or dex is permanently reduced by 2. I do like this. Some players won't. Some people won't. But I do like the consequences, like we talked about fate consequences, and even in Cortex. I like there being consequences of combat if you're knocked out. So this is a way, I suppose, to just make things simple with hit points for the most part. But then out of combat, because this would be rolled out of combat, you see what happened to you. And get a consequence for that having happened to you during battle. So what is this? We've got damage location drop table. Should you need to know where a creature has been hurt, roll the attack damage by dropping the die on this page. Okay. arms, head, 2 black eyes, smashed nose, cool eyebrow scar, most of nose gone, legs, broken toe, tendon snapped, foot fractured, knee, shredded liver, pierced kidneys, visible ribs, painful gut wound. Okay, lots of stuff can happen to you here. Crushed heart. I think that is necessary. Like where you're wounded, it's going to change the narrative of the game if you take an arm wound, particularly to your, and if you take an arm wound, is that going to your shield arm or your sword arm? A wound to your sword arm is going to change the narrative flow of the game. Likewise, if you're wounded in the leg and can't move, that's going to change the narrative flow of the game. So I don't mind that. Sometimes rolling for hit location every single time you're attacked, that can slow things down. But on the other hand, once you actually receive a significant wound, knowing where that is makes sense. Let's see here. So we've got experience and levels. This is short, so let's just see what the experience system is. Did we look at initiative? I wanted to see how they did initiative. Well, we got usage dice. Then we're getting the usage dice. And Theo was saying that's the best part of this. Okay, so let's just go through this because that's the next page too. So the Black Hack uses an abstract system of experiences to measure a character's development as they adventure and grow in power. And I remember we had that checkbox down there at the bottom. Unlike in many other games, characters don't earn points incrementally. All that matters is that a character is able to experience enough things that will change them as a person. There are a number of potential ways a character can be awarded an experience by the GM. Defeating a powerful named enemy either in combat or by thwarting their schemes, discovering the entrance or a newer, deeper level of a dungeon or lair and begin exploring it, rediscovering a magical artifact from a previous enlightened age, completing a quest for an NPC, overcoming, disabling, or surviving a deadly and powerful threat such as a magical trap or curse, failing so spectacularly in such dramatic fashion that everyone around the table agrees it's worth it. Okay, sometimes you learn from failure. Using experience to gain levels and power. Once a character has accumulated a number of experiences equal to their current level, they may share them to gain a level. For example, a level 2 character would need to share 2 experiences to advance to level 3. Each class gains something different when they go up a level. See pages 18 to 25 for each class's benefits. Sharing experience. In order for the character to share the experiences, they must go carousing and regale their companions in revelry with stories of their exploits and growing renown. Interesting, interesting. A player who wishes their character to share experiences. Oh, so you're not sharing experience points. You're sharing the experiences themselves through carousing. Fun. Tell the other players one very short story from their character's past over a round of drinks and toasts for each experience they wish to share. The player should roll 1d6 for each story told. This is the cost in coins that must be paid for the accompanying drinks and feasting. If they don't have the coin, the GM will determine the amount of debt they owe and to whom. Find the highest result rolled on any of the d6s and consult the carousing table. 1. Drunk and disorderly. Find for bad behavior. Roll all the d6s again, adding to the cost. 2. Drunken brawl. Lose a number of max HP equal to the character's level. Regain them next session. Lose a number of max HP. Wow. Equal to the character's level. Fame. Charisma tests have advantage for the remainder of the session. 4. Revelry. Roll a d20. If it's higher than charisma, gain 1 point of charisma. 5. Real story. Alter a background. 6. Secrets revealed. Gain another entirely new background. Alter a background versus entirely new background. Okay. So, limited resources and the usage die. Let's take a look at this. When an item described as UD and then a number after its name, it is considered to be a consumable limited item. The UD stands for usage dice or usage die, the number indicating what size die it is. For example, oil, UD6, has a usage die of 1d6. When that item is used, its usage die should be rolled. If the result is a 1 or 2, then the usage die is downgraded to the next smallest die in the following chain. D20, D12, D10, D8, D6, D4. Makes sense. When you roll a 1 or a 2 on a D4, the lowest die on the chain, the item is expended and the character has no more of it left. When tracking the usage die for ammunition such as arrows and bullets, roll the U die after the combat is resolved. Oh, so you're not rolling it for each individual fight. You're saying, I'm going to use my arrows in this battle. So after that, so you won't ever run out in the middle of a battle, but you may run out after the battle. You expended everything during the battle. I think I remember seeing this system discussed on Reddit. And there's some kind of other system that sounds like a modification of this that the Angry GM was talking about in one of his blog posts. I'll have to go back and see what they think. But so Theo is a fan, though, of the usage dice amount. It does keep from tracking. I guess you do rations this way as well. It keeps you from having to constantly be tracking everything to the number, right? You either got it or you don't. On the other hand, I guess it makes it a little bit difficult to predict when something is going to run out. Like, how many rations do you actually have? How far can you get? We'll see if we get more information on that. So resting, an hour to rest, fixing broken armor. Also, roll 1 character's hit die and regain that number of HP. For every day of narrative story time spent taking no strength or dexterity attribute tests, a character may roll all of their HD and recover that number of HP. Characters can recover hit points from spells, potions, resting, and abilities. Regardless of how many hit points are healed, the character can never recover more than their maximum hit points. All right. What about initiative? Because now we're into character creation. Well, okay, there's one more page, and then I got to go find initiative, and then we're into character creation, which I don't think we're going to get into. But let's just see what we've got here. Using backgrounds to gain advantage. Once per session, a player may tell the GM their character is using a background to aid them in making an attribute test. The player should give a convincing narrative explanation as to how their character's background relates to the current action and provide some kind of useful exposition about the character's story. This is the kind of stuff it sounds like that the Nose Plays was talking about yesterday. I know he's a big fan of this kind of thing. If the GM agrees, the player may roll that attribute test with advantage. Inventory. A character may happily carry a number of items up to or equal to their strength. Carrying more items than their strength means they are encumbered, and all attribute tests are taken with disadvantage. Characters simply cannot carry a number of items more than double their strength. We've got banish undead here. Clerics may attempt to banish nearby undead monsters as an action. They must test their wisdom, adding the creature's highest HD to their roll. Is that a roll? To the roll for each group of undead they are attempting to banish. Groups are determined by the GM when unclear. That may be just number of hit die. Undead monsters that are banished take damage equal to the cleric's level and must spend all their future movement and convert to actions to movement. So they are distant from the cleric. That banished them. A successful banishment lasts for 1d4 plus the banishing cleric's level in moments. We do have spellcasters, and like I said, that came up with a different book. When I downloaded this PDF, we ended up with 2 different books that look like they contain cleric and arcane spells. So once per day, a spellcaster may spend an hour memorizing a number of spells or prayers equal to their level from scrolls and books. A spellcaster can only memorize spells or prayers from levels up to and equal to their own level. Casting spells. A spellcaster can spend an action on their turn to cast a spell or prayer from memory. Once the effect of the spell has been resolved, the spellcaster should make an attribute test, adding the spell's or prayer's level to the roll. If they have already cast the spell this session, the attribute test is made with disadvantage. If they fail, the spell or prayer is no longer memorized. So I guess this goes along with the idea of the usage dice. This is kind of like usage dice for spells. Rather than use once and gone, and you're not tracking mana, for instance, or some other type of thing that's actually allowing you to cast the spells, because like you're not tracking anything like that in this game. So it makes sense that you wouldn't be tracking mana points or something like that to expend to cast spells. You're just seeing if you can cast it again. You won't know if you can cast it again until you've already cast it. So if you've already cast a spell this session, now that's interesting. This session, so we're adding the spell's level to the attribute test. Otherwise, it's forgotten. If you've already cast the spell this session, the attribute test is made with disadvantage. That's not putting like every game day or something like that. I thought this was going to be like every, only between like long rests or something like that. But, a session, that could be 3 or 4 hours or something like that. So if you cast a spell once and could cover multiple days, that's my initial impression is that that's rather harsh. It should be something like between rests or something like that. But I don't know. Has that come up with anybody who's been playing? Inner Light's here. Good morning. Glad to see you. BGD says, resource usage and allocation can be some of the biggest sources of contention with regard to how a particular rule set is received by players. Some people find any resource tracking too cumbersome. I'm old school, so I generally consider it an integral part of the game experience most of the time. I tend to hand wave as little as possible, both as a GM and as a player. Inventory and encumbrance is another aspect of RPGs that can be equally divisive among players and GMs. In truth, I believe there's no right or wrong way to address these design issues, only choices and trade-offs, which, when made to best advantage, maximize the benefits within a specific game context. Yeah, I agree. We're going to look at probably inventory and encumbrance systems specifically at some point when we go through different games. It seems like I potentially like the usage dice here, but my idea was that the purpose of the encumbrance system and an inventory system should be to actually increase fun. And it doesn't do that in many cases, because tracking everything down to ounces or the number of pounds you've got every time you expend an arrow or pick up gold or something like that, that's not fun. And then also, why are you doing that anyway? You're doing all this not fun tracking of amounts of weights and things like that in order to see if you surpass some type of number. And if you do surpass that number, your character is penalized because you're overburdened. And that is also not fun. So all of those things require a lot of work for the result of something to not be fun. However, I think if done right, the inventory and encumbrance system should add fun to the game, because it should be simple enough to actually do. But why are you doing it anyway? You're not doing it just so that, hey, you're overburdened now. You move slower now. You should be doing it because it should be a system that is limiting the amount of resources that players can take with them on an adventure. So you don't have unlimited resources. And so you need to focus on what resources actually matter during this particular game or whatever we're doing, this even particular session, what different things can matter in different sessions. So you're not going to have unlimited expenditure for that. You're going to have a certain amount of resources available, and part of the game should be making good decisions. And why it's adding fun is because the players will have to actually make important decisions regarding the expenditure of those resources in order to accomplish their objectives. To me, that's the purpose of an encumbrance system and an inventory system. So Inner Light says, I like the usage die for some things, but not for many things, not for as many things as this game has. Yes, this game is like doing it for everything, right? Trey says, the more time you spend worrying about the spreadsheets, the less time you have to play. Yes. Inner Light says, the Black Hack may be focusing on dungeon crawl, so using the old school one real day is one game day. So that might be why spells are limited to a session. Oh, it could be. It could be. So I didn't know that. In old school, one real day is one game day. That's interesting. Now, I've seen that in downtime. We've used that in downtime, that if it makes sense, and ordinarily we tried to make sure that like we got out of a dungeon or something at the end of a session or ended an adventure. And then if it was 2 weeks before we played again, there were 2 weeks that it went by in the game world as well. And so everybody got 2 weeks worth of downtime. I haven't ever played so that the amount of time expended at the table is necessarily representing has some kind of relationship with the amount of in-game time. BGD says, I like to count arrows and ammo because it can lead to dramatic situations and add a dimension to player tactics employed in the game. And I think that you kind of have to. Who was it that was talking about, like, as far as arrows go? Now, this is saying that you won't ever run out of arrows in a single fight, but you may be out of arrows at the end of a fight this game. Because it seems like, attacking with a ranged weapon is a great advantage to talk to attacking with a melee weapon. Because with a melee weapon, you've got to get close to this thing, and then you've got to attack it, and it can hit you back. The advantage of attacking with a ranged weapon is that you are not there to suffer an attack back. Now, it may be shooting at you as well, but you're not within melee range, and it may attack something else that's closer to it. So that's a big advantage. But what's the downside to that? There needs to be a downside to the player who is using a missile weapon or a ranged weapon. And that cost should be that, the disadvantage is that the ammunition costs something. And that you may not, and that you expend it. Same kind of way with wizard spells. If you're shooting from ranged, well, there's a tremendous advantage to being able to shoot at range. But the cost needs to be that the disadvantage means that it costs something. Your mana points or your expels per day or something like that. Trey says, I worry more about encumbrance when they leave players trying to take a whole dragon's horde in one trip. When they leave, right, yeah. I agree that's a different situation. That my emphasis would be on we're tracking all of this to figure out what resources you've got when you go to the dungeon. Now you're trying to get the dragon's horde out later, and that's a whole different kind of thing. How do you deal with 5,000 gold coins? So when turns are being tracked using minutes, a spellcaster may spend an action to attempt to cast a spell or prayer by reading it from a book or scroll. Okay. To do so, they must make an attribute test. So that takes a longer amount of time. So that would keep you from having to, so if they've already cast the spell this session, does that mean even if they had done it from a book or a scroll? But it takes longer to do this. This is not a combat thing. To do so, they must make an attribute test, adding the spell or prayer's level to the roll. If they succeed, it is cast. If they fail, it misfires, and the player should roll on the magical side effects table on page 43. A spellcaster can only cast spells up to and equal to their level. Arcane spells use intelligence, and prayers use wisdom for all attribute tests. Now we are into creating a character, which we are going to leave for later. Although before we go, the last thing I wanted to look at was initiative. Where is initiative in here? Initiative, page 10. Well, okay, it says this page 10, but also says the order in which creatures act in combat. Characters should test their dexterity. If they succeed, they act before their opponent. Let's just go look at page 10. I must have just skipped it or something. Oh, maybe I did just skip over it. So here it is, initiative in the order of combat. When combat breaks out, everyone must be sorted into an order so they may each act and react in turn. At the start of every moment, each player rolls a dex test for their character. Those that succeed take their turn before their NPC opponents. They must then discuss as a group to decide their own order for individual character actions. Those that fail their dex tests act after their opponents. All right. Okay. I'll take it. So everybody on this who passes gets to decide which order they're going to take their turn. And then I would keep that order the same. And then on the deck, if you fail, you got to go after. But this says at the start of every moment. So you are rolling decks round to round, because I was about to say that, on the first round, that's going to matter, but then you're just moving through in sequence. But you're testing this at the start of every moment. Each player rolls a dex test for their characters. This is like every turn. So their order could be shuffled every round. Now, the disadvantage of that is that takes time. Everybody's got to do this individual initiative test at the start of every turn. But on the other hand, that means that you could potentially shuffle the order around from turn to turn, and faster characters who have better dexterity should be able to consistently go faster than or in before the monsters. What do you think about that? It's simple. Could like it. Inner Light says, the usage die mechanic has been slightly adapted for other systems based on the black hack. I think there's a rule in one of the games I have where if a 1 is rolled in damage, arrows run out. BGD says, counting arrows bullets can govern crazy missile weapon feats and abilities like speed, quiver, or quick draw, where there would be a legless PC keeps chaining successful shots on the same turn. In time, even those uncanny archers run out of things to arch. Yeah. I mean, Legolas only has so many arrows. And in the books, he has to scavenge even trying to find orc arrows to use. Like the longer orc arrows. Didn't really do that so much in the movies. Arrows run out. Yeah, roll a 1, arrows run out. Or the decreases the usage die or something like that. Trey says, at this point in my life, I'm unsure if I would remember to ask everyone every round to roll initiative. Yeah. I still think my favorite initiative system, if you're going in tactical combat, is Hackmaster. I got to think about what to do with a good initiative system that is not that granular. I'll have to see. The reason I think the Dungeons and Dragons initiative system is the worst, because you got to roll this. And it's basically random anyway, because it's a very small modifier to a whole D20 roll. So basically, you're determining initiative randomly for everybody, and you got to sort all of that out. And it only really matters for the first round, who's going first before somebody else, because then everybody's just going to be acting in the same turn order. And you're not just allowed to go around the table, so you don't know when your turn is. You have to use some other type of system to be tracking when your turn is coming up. And Inner Light's recommending the initiative system from Shadow of the Demon Lord at some time. All right. We'll look at that. Trey, I would have the group sit highest to lowest in stats. Well, that would solve problems. That actually use the seating table, the actual seating of the table to, or have the stats determine the seating at the table. That works too. Then have them roll initiative for the whole scene. Yeah. All right. Let's wind down here. There's a lot going on for me over here today because we do have the after parties. I got to get ready for the parties tonight. So there's going to be a lot of YouTube going on today. And I've got my meeting about the story this afternoon. And I've got to do some other things. So let's go and prepare our day before the wind down. We'll probably do the wind down on the live stream, the live after party tonight. People said kind of keep the stream open. It seems to be a good way to do that. So we will do the wind down tonight. I don't want to go too terribly late, but we'll do the wind down on the after party tonight. Let's go to our index card productivity.
Well, I manage my department, and I've been doing that for several years now.
Your department's just you, right?
Yes, Jim, but I am not easy to manage.
If you would like to join in on being more productive with me and everyone else here on the stream, but are in need of a system to help you out, here's an easy system that you can adopt and that I recommend. Grab a sheet of paper. I find that an index card folded in half is the perfect size for this. But if you don't have an index card, no problem. Any scratch piece of paper will work just fine. Just grab it and a pen or pencil. Think for a moment and come up with the 3 things that if you were to accomplish them today, you would know and feel that it was a great day. I bet you can take a breath right now and think for just a moment, and you will know what those 3 things are. We're going to call these 3 items our big rocks. Our objective is to move these big rocks during the day. Now, don't make the rocks too big because then you can't move them. Rocks that are too big to move in about a third of a day, we call those huge rocks. Moving the huge rocks is our major multi-day goals in life. But in order to move them, we have to break up the huge rocks into big rocks that we can actually pick up and move around. But we don't want these rocks to be too small, because although small rocks are easy to move, we don't feel sufficient accomplishment when we move them. Moving the big rocks makes us feel accomplished because they advance us toward our objectives in significant ways. You decide what size tasks are small, big, and huge rocks for you. If you get all 3 of these tasks done, then go ahead and add a 4th or a 5th big rock. But don't do that unless you've finished your big 3. You want to look at your list at the end of the day and feel success and accomplishment. You can use your phone for this if you want to, but I think a sheet of paper is better because then you don't have to pick up your phone to check your list of big rocks and potentially get sucked into all the distraction on your phone. The phone will also let you put 20 or 30 things on the list, no problem. Half an index card will keep this tight and focused. I know there are dozens of things on my to-do list on my computer, and that's too much. This method allows me to extract what I really need to do during the day and focus on that. If you're already using a productivity method that you like, no problem, use that. Do what works for you. Now let's write down our big rocks and try to get them done between now and the wind down live stream in the evening. That's where we check in, see how we did, celebrate success, and see how we can improve tomorrow. If you need encouragement during the day, look to the Ravenkeep Discord server. It's a great and constructive community. Let's take over the Geekverse. All right, so did you come up with your big rocks? I did. Kind of coming quick here. I'm still trying to take care of some stuff that I hadn't gotten to move from yesterday. So we'll just go through here. I've completed my review of all of the Rabavania action figures parts, and I have started, I'm deep into getting the email written to the manufacturer. So I should be able to finish that pretty quickly, send that off, and get those commentary back. I have got to reply to Wingo about the Terratiles situation. We're getting those samples made, so I've got to write that email. Hopefully, those won't take too long. I do have to update the morning messages because I've got to get our sponsor in there and then book a time to talk to the sponsor. So that has got to happen. And then if I get to a 4th thing, so hopefully those will go well. But I also think that I have to do today is prepare for the Cultist parties tonight. Got to send out all the links to all of the people who may want to be with us tonight on the show, so they have it, prepare the giveaway forms and things like that. So I will have to do all of that and make sure that we are ready because we will be live again at 7:30 with the Cultists. So, all right, that's what I got. I hope that you also have a productive day. Get to it, drink water, exercise, make today a fantastic day. I will see you tonight at 7:30 for the Cultists. Later.